Let's open.
Or was that supposed to go to John? Yeah.
Okay, we make that motion.
All kinds of.
I'll make a motion to seat Sue Shenard and Mr. John Ham, as alternate, as full-time.
Well,
So-
I think we have Ray as a full-time and Miles, so I think we only need to appoint John. Sorry, Susan.
That's fine.
Is Miles there?
Yeah, he's there.
Miles is there.
Hi, Miles.
He's in the top left picture there.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Right.
Oh, there he is. Hi, Miles.
Yeah.
Are you still in a warm part of the country?
Oh, it was only 85, 86 today. It was a little cool.
Nice.
Oh, we are so sorry for you.
I know.
Yeah,
I
we
like it closer to 90.
yeah, we give you our sympathies. Yeah,
So we only need one motion?
we'll have a moment of silence.
We need him. Just put John.
Just John, for in place of Paul.
I'll make a motion to seat John as the alternate, and part of that motion will be to nominate him for chairman for the meeting.
Second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
Condolences. I don't-
It's nice to be back for a minute.
And thank you, John.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you for showing up and zooming in, I guess we call it, or whatever you call it. Go through the minutes of the last meeting. Any corrections, additions, subtractions?
On line 312, I believe I seconded that motion.
Okay, hold on. I gotta find,
You've got it yellow,
The one that says, Mr.
no name on there.
Okay.
I believe I seconded that motion, but my memory sometimes fails me, so I'm not sure, but I believe I did.
okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstained? Any other business, Carol, before we hear the applicant?
no, I think we just sally forth.
Okay,
And I didn't have the facts quite right, and I apologize for the hurly-burly of life in the planning department. I didn't ask her for her application, and we worked on it tonight, and you have it in front of you. And Ray and Miles, I emailed it to you.
Yes.
So anyway, we do have them. Although later than I would have.
floor is
No
yours.
problem. It was a pleasure. As Carol mentioned, one piece here that we were correcting today is that what we're really applying for, this came up, we were applying for a permit to add a garage to the front of the house, raise the roof line on the back of the house. And in that process, it came up that the deck, and I guess a part of the house was sort of over the setback. Turns out a portion of the deck is actually over the property line. So what we were proposing to do is take off all of the side decking, kind of in a way that makes structural sense for where the joists are, et cetera, which solves the problem of anything over the property line. We wanted to retain a piece in the back of the decking that does go into the setback, just because otherwise, you know, it sort of matches up with the house. A bit of the house is in the setback as well. And then a piece on the front that's sort of in the setback, but trying to make the problem better once we learned of it by pulling off everything that's on the side and everything that is over Loon's property line. What you see in the back, really no one else sees. It kind of is woods down to the road and then woods over to Loon's property and that parking lot down near the children's center, et cetera. So I don't believe in making things that are fairly simple complicated. I think that's it. I think that the addition that we're proposing that you know brought this up for the garage in the front isn't on the setback side at all. It's sort of on the other side of the property where there's plenty of room. It actually fills in sort of a weird hole The house basically juts out on one side and then goes back to the garage, which just kind of bring it level across the front, but that wasn't part of the setback piece. So it's really just about keeping some portion of the decking that's existing, that's still in the setback.
Right, and the house, because we want full forgiveness if possible. or
For what exists.
She's
in the
looking
house.
for full forgiveness for what is already there. And she's gonna make the whole situation improved with what she's proposing.
I walked down and took a look at it and walked around the house. I noticed in the documents here that it says the house was built in 1987. Is that correct?
That might be right. I was trying today to really look that up because we had thought it was 1970s, but it looks like,
Was it 87?
I
Well,
think it
it's
was the
on the
80s.
assessment cards, it says 87. So I'm assuming if they,
No,
and
no,
there
it's
was a permit from them, 87.
from 87 to construct it. I mean, it looks like conditioned the way it's constructed with, I think, T111 on the exterior or shiplap pine. It looks like it's pre that. But I mean, I know in my own home, they had my house being built in, I think, 1999. When I appealed for tech, my house was actually constructed 10 years earlier, in 1989. So, and you know, that was documented afterwards. They realized that they had a mistake made. But anyways, no, again, just looking at the type of construction, it looked to be an earlier type of construction than 1987. But just what Mrs. Mantromani indicated, there is a deck on the right-hand side, which they're proposing based on this to rip off. So that will no longer constitute a violation.
Well, a portion of the deck will still be over the line. If you look at
On the
this.
right-hand side,
On the right-hand side, so if you pull this one out where I blew up her. She gave us the small, I printed out the small colored one. And then I blew it up. And so the deck that she wants to keep is, I just want to make sure I'm talking correctly, is this piece back here,
Like you see sort of a square in the back,
the square in the back. So that will still be over,
right.
the
more of that.
setback.
right, over the
That's the property
setback. And then part of the building will always, will be over.
Right.
So, and then there's a teeny little piece in the front. You'll notice that it's just barely over the line. It's kind of light colored. See where the red stripes are?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And right in front of there is a piece that goes slightly over the front setback.
Yeah.
And we want to keep that until, I mean, sometimes in the future, she might fix that, but not right now. So she is asking for forgiveness for the waiver of, equitable waiver of the dimensional, requirements. Just that small piece. I'm not sure how much it's over. It might be a foot, might be less than that, but
How much?
about a foot, I'm guessing.
Bury it and nobody will see it.
Right.
I believe there's also a stairway that's off-site that will also be removed.
That stairway doesn't belong to us. That
Right, that's
belongs to
Loon's
Loon.
there.
That's Loon Stairs.
Oh, no kidding. I wonder what it's there for.
No idea.
Thank-
There's a gentleman, right, there's a
Amen.
gentleman on the second in command at Loon, Mr. Brian Norton, I'm sure could aptly answer that question.
Oh,
Oh,
thank you.
that goes way beyond my time, Jack. I couldn't do it.
Those put in as access to the slope.
Right, access
Yeah,
from those
kinda like
living on
Ram's
Governor's Lane.
So the stairway will remain, but it's not on your property, right? This is Mashramani?
Well, if it remains or not, it's probably not up to me. It will remain if Loon doesn't remove it.
Yeah, if you look at the map, Ray, there's her deck that kind of is parallel to those steps, and that's what's gonna go away.
I understand the ramp
Yeah,
and the deck.
And the whole side deck that the ramp leads to.
Yes, thank you.
And it's my understanding that this is now a full-time residence. It's, no, you moved up here full-time?
Yes. And so part of this, I mean, the house really does need, whether it was built in the 70s or the 80s, not much has been done on it since then. And so we need to redo heating, plumbing, electric. And so this was kind of part of literally pulling down all sorts of things to redo those systems.
Any other questions or comments, Ray, anybody, Miles?
This is Ray, just so I understand it now. You're not removing the stairs because they're not on your property, but you are removing that ramp that is beyond the property line. And all of these issues were built prior to your acquisition of the property. You're also removing a portion of the deck along that side that's within the setback as well. I would comment that these changes make the real estate more in conformance with the zoning ordinance.
Yes, that's all correct.
That's the way I see it also, Ray. So I see the property coming into a lot more conformance than what it previously was.
Yes, I would agree, Miles.
Brian, does Loon have any concerns?
I think the only thing that we need to consider, and I tried to get up there today, I just didn't have time, but the neighbor across the street, Jamie Rome, has expressed interest in raising the grade of Governor's Lane to accommodate the elevation of his house, and this house down elevation from them, I believe, has had some water issues that possibly were related to the Rome family house when the construction was done there, and we're quite literally caught in the middle of those two. So the water issues there between those two houses, and I just want to make sure that that's taken into account as far as the setbacks. I mean, we don't have a problem with that as long as we can continue to maintain the road the way we need to. I don't have a problem with it.
Like, quick question for you. I walked down there when I saw the house across the road. I didn't know who it belonged to, but it almost looked like a portion of that driveway is in the roadway, is it?
I have been trying to work with a surveyor to establish where that is. And I have the same opinion that you do, Jack, that his driveway is already extended into the road. And you can see that the iron pipe marking one corner of his driveway. And I believe the other, the one corner of his property line. And I believe the other corner is kind of buried there, but I have an idea where it is. And yes, I do think that they've done some grading changes already extending into Governor's Lane. And that was, as I understand it, to accommodate a change in elevation from the original plans because they hit ledge when they were doing that.
Chief is like shaking his head, yes.
Yeah, they did hit ledge.
They did hit ledge.
Okay. So in Mr. Rome's application, there should be a survey when he applied for that new home.
Okay, so Brian, do you want me to look and see if there's if I have a survey on file and I could email it to you?
Yeah, if you have something, that would be great.
Okay, can you just send me an email to remind me, because
Oh, you should send an email request for that anyway, right?
yeah, send an email request to me for the Rome survey, and I'll see if I got it.
I can do that. Thank you.
Okay.
The only thing that I would say there's kind of, if we go forward with this application, which really doesn't, the garage that's part of this addition application that generated the setback issue really doesn't have anything to do with the setback. But it would become an issue for us if the road grade was raised, because essentially what we're trying to do is come
Even with
off
the-
the street
Right, you don't need a
into a
flooded
garage,
garage.
so.
Yeah.
It's already a pretty, I mean,
Can you hear that,
the
Brian?
hill is pretty steep. So if, if the road's here, his house is here, ours goes kind of down a level and up, but raising that road grade would definitely be problematic. We don't have any major issues. I think there was some water issue, but maybe it was during construction or something. We haven't
Had
had,
the onset of the construction.
yeah, we haven't had a lot of issues with it as is. I think we probably would have issues if the road was meaningfully raised, because one, it would make access to our property. We wouldn't be on the level anymore.
I agree. I don't have a problem with the disturbance to the setbacks. I think we're getting better in that regard. So thank you. And I have expressed the elevation change concern to anyone we've spoken to over there about it. I just brought that up because I assume there will be some sort of driveway permit associated with the land use authorization permit that, the building will need, and obviously being the road owner there, I just wanted to bring it up publicly, that's all.
Well, I don't think we're gonna be issuing a driveway permit unless she's gonna change it or move it or something. Because
Would
she's
come right
already
off the
got,
road.
she's already got a driveway there. I mean, if she was gonna put in another driveway, she'd get a permit from Nate. Or if she was gonna move it substantially, she'd get a different permit from Nate, but I don't think your application didn't include anything like that.
No, I mean, what's there is, there's a little, let's say, I don't know exactly where the boundary of the road is, but essentially, the road goes through, we pull our cars a little bit off the road, just kind of next to it.
Right.
So that would be, where we're pulling the cars right now, would be the driveway into the garage. There wouldn't be any extra,
So
driveway.
you basically already have a curb cut for your
Right.
driveway.
exactly.
So how would she find out if Loon's planning to?
Yeah, how would you let people know, Brian? Like if you decided to change the road, would you notify her?
Yeah, we would notify everyone on the road, and I don't want to do anything more than I have to, but as I said, I brought it up because there are some drainage issues up the road, up the hill at the top of Governor's Lane. And Calder, who was doing the work for the Rome family, had expressed to Loon that adding material and raising the grade down there could help some of the other drainage issues up the road. And they're not wrong. It would help, but I mean, we're not in the business of rebuilding roads for no reason. So I don't expect to do anything. I just wanted to bring it up because I know there were some water issues there, and his driveway is already in our road, and he did want to raise it. So
Okay, so we'll pay attention then.
I'll open it to public participation. Is there any public that wants to speak?
Judy.
Who's Judy?
Minute taker.
No, Judy
Oh.
takes our minutes.
Okay.
And nice ones too, Judy.
Okay, so I guess we'll close that. Any other,
I'll make a motion to close the public comment.
Second. all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ray.
John, you get better at this.
I'm still a little rusty. Been a while.
It'll come back.
I gotta help. All right, so what do we do next, Carol? We have to
Okay,
we have to look over
let's
the
just look
form.
at
I
her
mean, pretty much the
application.
standard. We're taking the deck off.
Okay, so we want to make sure that she's met the requirements. So the first thing is the application for an equitable waiver of dimensional requirements. And, this basically the gist of what's in here is what was in the notice to abutters.
Did we have any, we had no correspondence from any abutters other than,
No, no,
Mr. Norton.
Brian is the only abutter.
okay, yeah,
Really? So, this just reiterates that it's existed for 10 years or more with no enforcement action. So I guess our question is, does it request a dimensional requirement, not a use restriction? And the answer is yes. So, that could be one thing that you want to vote on. I mean, you're kind of polling the board as you go through, and then you make a final vote at the end for whether or not it passes the tests. So the first one is, does the request involve a dimensional requirement, not a use restriction? So you say poll the board. Does everybody agree?
Yes,
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 okay, so we all agree that yes, it is.
So then the second thing is, has the violation existed for 10 years or more with no enforcement action, including written notice being commenced by the town? And I guess I could, I basically have testified to you that that's what I found. So we can poll the board. Does everybody agree?
Everybody agree that that is the case?
Yes.
yes,
yes, yes,
Okay.
Three.
Was the nonconformity discovered after the structure was substantially completed or after a vacant lot in violation has been transferred to a bona fide purchaser? So I think we've already talked about that. So if you agree, the initial violation existed for 34 years. Seems like a long time to me. And each successive violation had no enforcement action. And I discovered it when they applied for a land use permit. So do you all agree that it was discovered after it was substantially completed and before it was transferred to the bona fide purchaser?
Yes.
Yes.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
And then the nonconformity, whether the nonconformity constitutes a nuisance or diminishes the value or interferes with the future uses of any other property in the area. So obviously, I suppose,
I would make a motion that it does not
there you go.
reduce the value.
Do we have a second?
It has to be a poll at this point, not a vote,
Oh, okay.
so,
Okay, okay.
So we'll poll that,
okay, so everybody agree?
yes.
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 Okay. And then, does the cost of correction far outweigh any public benefit to be gained? In order to correct it, she'd have to take the house down and, life would be difficult.
Please don't make us do that.
So, so do you agree that the cost of correction far outweighs any public benefit to be gained by making it compliant?
Yes,
I
Yes.
agree.
Okay.
No,
So now you can vote on whether or not to grant the application for an equitable waiver of dimensional requirements.
1 second, did you skip how the violation was not an outcome of ignorance of the law or bad faith?
Oh, yeah. Okay. And the violation, was the violation an outcome of ignorance of the law or bad faith? Or a good faith error in measurement or calculation? So, it's probably not the best wording, but they're the new owners. They learned of the violation when they submitted their application to the town for the land use permit for the addition. And after they learned, they're proposing to modify they are going to modify their plans, remove most of the decks and the walkways and the setback areas, leave a portion of the decking on the side and the front. So, so how do you vote on that? Good faith error? Yes or no?
On
Yeah.
their-
I agree.
Their part.
Yes, yes, good faith.
Good faith error. So, and then, anyway, so then you can vote. Somebody can make a motion to grant the application for an equitable waiver of dimensional requirement.
Carol,
Yeah,
Before we do that, should we make some findings of fact?
excellent idea.
How about that? I have a couple thoughts, if you don't.
Okay,
All right, well, first of all, I would just thank Mr. and Mrs. Masharamani for the complete presentation that we got with the materials and for taking this action to make the property more conforming. My first finding of fact, and by the way, I have these written down, Carol, if you don't get them all, I can give them to you later.
yeah, give it to me later.
Okay. That removing the ramp that was built beyond the property line prior to their acquisition of the property is an improvement to the site. That's first finding of fact. How do you want to vote on this, Mr. Chairman? As we go, I have several.
We could go through them and vote on them in the end, I believe. Does anybody have a problem with that?
Yeah, so why don't you read them and say, does anybody have a problem? That people can speak up if they have a problem. And if
Okay,
not,
I'll keep going. No problem. We have also confirmed that they are removing almost all of the duct that was built within the setback over the prior years and prior to their acquisition of the property. The third finding of fact, the changes make the real estate and its improvements more conforming to the conditions of the applicable ordinances. And fourth, the proposed additions are generally in compliance with the setback requirements of the zoning ordinance, except as discussed during the meeting. And the removal of the encroachments as it relates to abutting land is a improvement as well. So those are 5 findings.
okay, so does somebody want to move to accept those findings of fact?
So move.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second your motion, Miles.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Accept them.
Aye.
Aye.
I
Opposed, abstain? Okay.
Okay, so now I think you can vote on whether to grant the application for the equitable waiver.
Also move that we grant the application for dimensional waiver.
Second.
All in
I'll
favor?
second.
Okay. We have a second from Delia. Great. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed,
I
abstain?
no, I am on the I side.
Yes, we got you right. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so the second thing was the application for a variance. So the first is granting the variance would or would not be contrary to public interest because of what you set forth in the application. Is everybody in agreement, polling wise?
Yes,
Or does anybody disagree?
I agree.
Okay, so then the second one is, if the variance were granted, the spirit of the ordinance would or would not be observed because, so would be observed because of what's written in the application here.
I agree.
Okay, so then the third one is granting the variance would do substantial justice because granting the variance to approve the deck is not outweighed by any gain to the general public. Its proposed development is consistent with the area's present residential use and is similar to adjoining uses.
I agree.
Do you agree?
Correct.
I agree.
Correct.
Okay, number 4, if the variance were granted, the values of the surrounding properties would not be diminished. The deck does not block any views of the water, the mountains, the sunset, the sunshine of any adjacent lots. It doesn't decrease any property values. The use is consistent with the abutting uses, so it will not decrease property values. Do you agree?
Right?
I agree.
You agree?
Aye.
Okay. Then the hardship part. The variance sought for the deck owing to a special condition, which is sort of the trigger for granting the hardship variance, special condition of the property that distinguishes it from other properties in the area, and that the denial of the variance would result in an unnecessary hardship because there's no fair and substantial relationship that exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property, because it's sought for a deck in the setback area as a restriction on the dimensional limitation of a permitted residential use. The lot is unique in that it directly is adjacent to the Loon Mountain recreational ski area, which is comprised of wide open spaces in the area adjacent to their home. And the building and trails of the ski area are far removed from their house. And owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, there's no fair and substantial relationship that exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance and the specific application of that provision to their property. And the proposed use is reasonable because the decking is a reasonable use in a residential neighborhood, and granting the variance will not negatively affect neighboring properties or the town's overall zoning goals. So do you agree with that?
Yes.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, so Ray, do you want to propose findings of fact, the same list that you had proposed for the waiver?
Okay, you want me to go over those again?
Well, I'm just thinking there might be one additional finding of fact about the uniqueness of the property.
I didn't hear that the last couple words I didn't hear.
Yeah, about the uniqueness of the property.
Oh, the uniqueness of the property. I think that goes with the general findings for the variance, correct? But I do think there are unique aspects of this property, and those unique aspects include abutting the non-residential area to the east that is owned by Loon Mountain.
Okay, so are you suggesting that we'll take those same findings of fact, add that one that you've just discussed to support a decision having to do with the variance? Is that right? Does that make sense? So if we do the findings of fact and just add that one.
That's where I understand it.
I'm just waiting here for Ray.
Okay, no. I thought he was buffering, like.
Are you waiting for me or?
Yeah, I'm just saying, does that sound okay to you?
Yes, it
Okay,
does.
so does everybody agree with Ray's suggestion?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, so then I believe that you could vote to adopt those findings of fact for the application for the variance.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
All those in
All
favor?
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
aye,
Opposed? Spain?
Okay, so now I think you can vote on the application for a variance.
Make a motion to grant the application for the variance.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstained?
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll just have to, if you could send me that list, Ray, that'd be good, and I could do a notice of decision for them.
That'll probably take me a couple months.
All right, it'll take a couple months for me.
Might be a lawyer involved.
So close.
All right,
No, I'll have that to you, Carol.
or I could just have Judy do the minutes and then I can take it from that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray, for doing those.
Thank you, Ray,
Thank
for
you, Ray.
doing those.
Thank you, Miles.
And John,
You're
thank you
welcome.
for stepping in for
Thanks,
me.
John.
No problem. Enjoyed it. Thank you, Val.
Miles, he earned the big bucks tonight, you know.
Yeah.
You know that.
I know.
I get more pay for one.
And by the way, Miles, you're not here, but I don't know if you noticed, his wife knew that he was coming tonight,
Yep,
so she bought new chairs for us.
yes.
That was
Oh,
nice.
You guys look good in that room.
Went and got him during the day, I guess. She made a couple trips.
Oh, no more squeaking on video.
She even made the Ram truck driver swing in to pick up the desk because she couldn't fit in the truck.
That's what she was doing. God bless her.
She called.
Miles, I
Yes,
think
sir.
you should know that you need to thank John as well, because if I couldn't make it, he was gonna have, they were gonna have to have you come up.
Oh,
and attend in
really?
person.
Well, you know, I gotta tell something. I'm thinking about this today. I haven't worn anything but a bathing suit for the last 5 weeks, every single day.
Oh, we
Today was
feel
the
bad
first
for
day
you.
I wore shorts all day.
Make a motion to adjourn, yes.
Yeah.
I wanna make a motion that we ignore that violent and inconsiderate statement.
I'll make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?